Your mind doesn't hate you. It doesn't wake up trying to sabotage your peace. It's not plotting against your future. But still, it lies, not with evil intent, but with fear, habit, and illusion. It tells you you're not good enough, that something bad is about to happen, that you have to keep running, keep fixing, keep proving. It sounds like protection. It feels like caution. But really, it's just noise in a costume. And that noise runs your life. Most of the pain you carry isn't from what happened to you, but from the story your mind told you about what happened. Your mind remembers moments, but it distorts meaning. A single mistake becomes, I'm a failure. A rejection becomes, I'm unlovable. A pause in momentum becomes, I'm falling behind. It doesn't mean to do this. It thinks it's helping. But in protecting you from pain, it makes you afraid of living. The Stoics saw this clearly. They understood the mind is both the battlefield and the weapon. If you don't train it, it trains you. And it's been training you your whole life. To doubt, to chase, to control, to seek peace by avoiding discomfort instead of walking through it. This is the root of your exhaustion, not the work, not the goals, but the war inside your head that never stops. You try to rest, but your mind whispers, you're wasting time. You try to be still, but it shouts, you're falling behind. You try to feel joy, and it interrupts. Don't trust this. Something always goes wrong. You think you're living, but really, you're negotiating with your own mind. And unless you learn to question that voice, you'll keep living a life that doesn't feel like yours. Not because it's wrong, but because it's built on fear, not truth. So let's start here. Let's start by learning to hear the difference between what your mind says and what's actually real. Reality is quiet. It doesn't panic. It doesn't rush. It doesn't beg to be believed. It just is. Your mind, though, it's loud, urgent, insistent. It screams not because it knows, but because it's scared. Scared you'll stop listening. Scared you'll outgrow the stories. Scared you'll step into the present, where it has less control. That's why silence is terrifying. Not because it's empty, but because it's honest. In silence, you hear what's underneath. And sometimes what's underneath is not who you thought you were. You aren't your thoughts. You're the one who hears them. And you have the right and the power to question them, to pause and ask, is this true? Is this mine? Is this helping me or holding me? These questions don't destroy the mind. They align it. They remind it of its place. A servant of the self, not the master of your being. That's the beginning of freedom. Not silence, but sovereignty. Not stillness, but strength. Because once you know your mind is not your enemy, you stop fighting it. And you start listening, guiding, retraining it, patiently, firmly, daily. Not to eliminate the noise, but to stop believing it. Because that's what changed everything for the Stoics. Not less thought, just less obedience. Your mind wants control, not out of dominance, but out of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of pain, fear of being unprepared when life strikes without warning. So it creates stories, rules, predictions. If I say the right thing, they won't leave. If I plan hard enough, nothing bad will happen. If I expect the worst, I'll be ready for it. But none of these thoughts protect you. They only trap you. The mind believes anxiety is safety, that worrying is preparation, that doubt is intelligence. But it's not. It's just a habit, rehearsed for so long, it feels like truth. And because your mind wants to protect you, it often becomes your prison. It doesn't let you trust joy. It doesn't let you rest in peace. It's always bracing for impact, even when nothing's wrong, especially when nothing's wrong. You're not unhappy because your life is bad. You're unhappy because your mind won't let you feel safe inside it. It's like living with a bodyguard who's always yelling, "Duck," even in a quiet room. Eventually, you forget what calm even feels like. And that's where the illusion becomes dangerous. Because once you stop feeling safe, you stop showing up. You hold back your love, your truth, your ideas. You hide behind certainty, but that certainty is built on fear. You begin to trust your anxiety more than your intuition. You hesitate when life asks you to act. You ruminate when life wants you to move. You plan instead of feel. You avoid instead of grow. And all the while, your mind whispers, "I'm keeping you safe." But safe from what? From being hurt? Or from being free? The Stoics knew the answer. They didn't chase control. They practiced surrender. Not passivity, not laziness, but a radical commitment to what is real, not what is imagined. They understood that the only true power is in how you respond, not in what you predict. So why does the mind resist this? Because it equates control with safety. But the truth, control is a myth. The more you cling to it, the more fragile you become. You try to control people and lose connection. You try to control outcomes and lose peace. You try to control the future and lose the moment you're in. And still, the mind pushes back. Don't let go. Be ready. Prepare for every scenario. But life doesn't work that way. It never has. It never will. And trying to force it only breaks you. So what can you do? You can return to breathe, to presence, to what's actually in front of you. You can learn to feel the fear and not obey it. To say, "Yes, I hear you, mind, but I choose not to follow this thought." Because not every thought deserves your trust. Not every fear is a sign. Not every discomfort is danger. The mind loves patterns. It fears uncertainty. But you weren't born to be predictable. You were born to be alive. And aliveness is messy. It's risky. It requires you to show up, even when the voice in your head begs you to stay small. So the practice isn't to silence the mind. It's to lead it, to remind it, "Thank you for protecting me, but I'm not in danger anymore." Your past pain trained your mind to expect more pain. But your presence, your awareness, can retrain it to expect peace, to look for what's working, to lean into what's good, to allow what is. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. The kind the Stoics lived by, not loud, not reactive, still, clear, grounded in this moment, not the imagined one. And this is the start of something radical. You stop trying to fix everything, and you start facing it. Not to change the world, but to meet it as it is, without flinching, without hiding, without letting your mind write a story that was never true to begin with. You've been taught to trust your mind, to listen, to obey, to believe that thinking equals knowing. But the mind doesn't always know. It guesses, it compares, it predicts, and sometimes it panics. That panic becomes your reality. You feel anxious, but it's not truth. It's your mind rehearsing danger. It's your system replaying survival mode. You feel tired, not because of what you're doing, but because of what you're carrying. The pressure to get it right, the fear of being wrong, the story that you must be perfect or be punished. That's not clarity. That's a cage. The Stoics never promised a quiet mind. They promised something stronger, a trained one, a mind that sees clearly, speaks calmly, moves slowly, a mind that doesn't flinch at life's weight, but meets it, not to win, not to avoid, but to engage with honor. And you've already been fighting. You've already been at war with your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own self. But what if the war is optional? What if you don't have to believe every voice in your head? What if you don't have to chase every thought to the end? What if you don't have to fix everything just because your mind says something's broken? Because sometimes it lies, not maliciously, not to hurt you, but because it's scared, because it learned to be loud when it felt unheard, because it learned to doubt when it wasn't safe to trust. And maybe now, you can unlearn that, not by force, not by erasing the past, but by choosing differently in this moment. Breathe. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the moment as it is. And ask yourself, is this fear or fact? Is this wisdom or habit? Is this voice helping me live or holding me back? Because that's how it begins. Not with answers, but with questions. The Stoics practiced this daily, not with books, not with speeches, with silence, with walking, with observation, with breath. They weren't trying to escape the mind. They were trying to teach it, to serve, not to rule, to point, not to punish. And now, it's your turn, your chance to stop the war, not by silencing your thoughts, but by refusing to worship them. Not every thought is a command. Not every worry is a truth. Not every fear is a prophecy. Some are just echoes, and you don't owe your life to an echo. You owe it to this moment, to the reality in front of you, to the life you're actually living, not the one your mind invented. If any part of this feels like truth, like something you already knew but forgot, subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss what your mind's been hiding from you. You've lived long enough in your head to know what chaos feels like. The endless spin of what if, the constant pressure to fix, improve, achieve, the background hum of not enough, even on your best days. It doesn't shout anymore. It just sits there, lurking, judging, pushing. You think that voice is you. You think it's the real you, because it's always been there. But what if it's not? What if the real you is the one that hears the voice, not the one that speaks it? The Stoics practiced separating the self from the noise. They didn't believe everything they thought. They didn't worship the voice in their head. They questioned it, challenged it, watched it like a wild animal, because it was. A wild, untamed voice that could either serve them or sabotage them. Modern life has only made that voice louder. Notifications, comparison, expectation. You're not just thinking your own thoughts anymore, you're hosting everyone else's. Their fears, their doubts, their standards. You're trying to meet goals you didn't even choose. Trying to fix things that were never broken. Trying to become someone you were never meant to be. And the voice? It just keeps score. That's why silence is so hard. Not because there's nothing to do, but because in silence you finally hear what's underneath. And underneath all the noise is usually pain. Unacknowledged, unprocessed, unloved. But that's where your real mind lives. Not in the noise, not in the fear, but in the quiet, in the still, steady part of you that's been watching the chaos unfold without joining it. That part of you knows the truth. It doesn't panic. It doesn't beg. It doesn't compare. It just sees. The Stoics trained themselves to return to that part, to choose perception over panic, wisdom over reaction, presence over performance. You can too, but not by force, not by silencing the mind with shame, not by fighting every thought that arises. That's just more noise. You return to peace by remembering you are not the voice, you are the witness. You are the quiet observer who gets to choose which thoughts deserve your energy and which ones dissolve when you stop feeding them. Letting go is not weakness, it's clarity. Clarity that says, this thought isn't mine. This fear isn't truth. This judgment doesn't define me. And then you do the radical thing. You move on, without explaining, without fixing, without replaying it 100 times in your head. You just let it pass, like a cloud, like a wave, like all things that come and go when you don't hold on to them. That's not avoidance. That's mastery. It's how the Stoics stayed calm in storms, still in battle, clear in chaos. Not by controlling everything, but by controlling what they gave attention to. What you feed grows. What you believe shapes you. And what you let go of sets you free. There will still be noise. The mind will still whisper old doubts and familiar fears, but you'll hear them differently, not as commands, not as truth, just echoes. Echoes of a time when you didn't know who you were, but you do now. Not perfectly, not fully, but enough. Enough to pause, enough to question, enough to choose differently, because you were never meant to obey every thought. You were meant to watch them, to weigh them, and then to walk through them as the observer, as the master, as the stillness beneath the storm. You've heard the voice, you've felt the noise, you've seen how thoughts can twist reality until even peace feels like a threat. But now comes the practice, not escaping, not erasing, but retraining. Because your mind is not the enemy, but it does need a leader. And for too long, It's been leading you. It told you what to fear, what to chase, who to be. And like most of us, you believed it, because no one taught you how to push back. But the Stoics did, and their approach was simple. Observe, detach, redirect. They didn't fight the mind. They watched it, not with judgment, but with discipline. They asked, is this thought useful? Is this emotion necessary? Is this within my control? And whatever failed that test, they let go. Not because they didn't feel, but because they knew what deserved their energy and what didn't. You can train your mind the same way. Start with the pause. That moment between the thought and the reaction. Stretch it. Make space inside it. Let the thought appear, but don't rush to believe it. Don't rush to act. Just notice. Notice the tone, the pattern, the origin. Is it from truth or from trauma? Is it from clarity or conditioning? Your power begins in that pause, because in the pause, you remember you have a choice, and choice is where suffering ends. The mind wants fast answers. The soul wants true ones. Let the mind panic, but don't follow. Let it scream, but don't obey. Let it spin, but stay still. Stillness isn't inaction, it's mastery. A master isn't someone who never thinks. It's someone who knows which thoughts are lies. Reclaiming yourself starts here, not by changing your past, but by changing your relationship with your thoughts. By no longer asking, how do I stop thinking this? And instead asking, why do I think this? And do I have to? Because most of your mental suffering is just unquestioned habit, a loop, a rut, a voice that was never you, just something you heard so many times you started to believe it. You're not broken. You're just buried beneath years of noise, stories, doubt. But underneath that, there's something real, not perfect, not polished, but present. That part of you doesn't need fixing. It needs remembering. So when the mind spins, slow down. When the thoughts spiral, don't spiral with them. Step back, watch, ask, redirect. That is the discipline. That is the practice. That is the freedom. The Stoics weren't trying to become thoughtless. They were trying to become thoughtful, to think clearly, deliberately, on purpose, not reactively, not emotionally, not fearfully. And that's where you begin again, with one breath, one pause, one moment of saying, no, not this thought, not this fear, not this time. And then you walk forward anyway, not because the fear is gone, but because it doesn't get to drive anymore. You do. The mind was never meant to be silent. It was meant to be trained. Trained to notice, not judge, to question, not obey, to reflect, not react. You don't need a perfect mind. You need a practiced one. A mind that no longer runs wild with every fear, every story, every doubt. But instead, a mind that waits, listens, and then responds with intention. That kind of mind doesn't come from wishing. It comes from choosing. Choosing to pause, choosing to stay, choosing to lead, again and again and again. Because thoughts will keep coming, doubts will still visit, but you You won't flinch anymore. You'll know they're just clouds, and you are the sky. This isn't about becoming fearless. It's about becoming honest. Honest about what your mind is doing, and brave enough to stop following it blindly. That honesty is peace. You'll still hear the voice, but now you'll hear it differently. Not as truth, not as prophecy, just noise. And noise can't hurt you if you stop mistaking it for direction. The Stoics didn't try to silence their minds. They just stopped kneeling to them. They stood up, looked at their thoughts, and asked, "Is this helping me live with virtue, with courage, with clarity?" If the answer was no, they let it go. Not to avoid life, but to return to it fully. And that's the work, to return again and again to what is real, to what is steady, to what is you. Not the voice, not the fear, not the version of you that was shaped by other people's panic, but the stillness you were born with, the presence that never left, the clarity that's been waiting beneath the noise. That clarity, it's not loud. It won't scream for your attention. It just sits, quiet, patient, waiting for you to stop running, waiting for you to return. And when you do, when you finally hear the space beneath the noise, you'll understand something simple, but life-changing. You were never broken, just untrained. But now, you know what to do. Now, you begin, not just once, but every time the voice returns. You'll pause, you'll question, you'll choose. And slowly, the voice will change, because you changed. So if your mind still lies sometimes, if the fear still shows up, that's okay. Just don't hand it the wheel. Don't let it decide who you are, or what you do, or how you live. That's your job now, and you're ready. If you're still here, there's something in you that knows this already. And there's more where this came from. The next piece is waiting when you're ready.